Hey everyone, Gill here, and it is time to preview the second men's semifinal at the 2020 Australian Open. It is Dominic Thiem against Alexander Zverev. How fun is this? I can't remember, unless I'm forgetting something. This is really the first time in a while where you have two young players in the semifinal of a major, right? Unless I'm missing something. So I'm really excited for this. It's definitely the biggest match of Alexander Zverev's career. It's the biggest winnable match. I mean, I don't want to say that. I don't want to disrespect Thiem and say when he plays Nadal in a Roland Garros final on court Philippe Chatrier that it's not a winnable match. However, it's the first. It's the biggest match in Dominic Thiem's career where he's not a big underdog. So this is huge stakes for both players. Somewhat uncharted territory, certainly for Zverev, and for Thiem that would be the case if you make the distinction of being on a hard court. So this is huge. I want to start by briefly going over the two quarterfinals, how these two got there. We'll start with Dominic Thiem. He picked up his first win in a major against Rafael Nadal. Um, Avenged a loss, a 5-set loss at the U.S. Open 2 years ago, which was the turning point in Dominic Thiem's career when he realized that he didn't need to just be a clay court specialist and that he could compete with the best on any surface. When he lost to 5 sets in 5 sets against Nadal at the U.S. Open 2 years back. This was him coming full circle and putting it all together. Clutch serving from Thiem, good serving from Nadal as well, taking advantage of Thiem's backhand return, which was probably the only part of Dominic Thiem's game that wasn't sensational in this match. This is backhand return. Nadal served well, got a lot of free points on that side, was able to play a lot of first strike tennis on that side. We saw breaks in most of the sets, so it wasn't like a serve body match, but Thiem ends up winning 3 tie breaks. Nadal was up a break in the first set. Nadal was up a break in the second set as well. Lost both those leads. Here was the major theme to me of the match, and here's how I would sum up what happened. In the current state that Nadal is in, Thiem had a speed advantage and Thiem had a power advantage. Nadal did not have his net play. It was an uncharacteristically poor match by Nadal at the net. It's one way to overcome power and speed. But the main factor here is that Nadal did not harbor a consistency advantage, which is normally something he's able to hold over Dominic Thiem, especially in the biggest matches that they've played, especially in best of 5. Thiem was just more explosive from the back, was creating more offense from defensive positions, was winning more points scrambling, was finishing points with more ease off the ground. And again, that comes down to mostly his athleticism and being faster and more powerful right now. I think Nadal needs some rest badly. Not to take anything away from Thiem, and I don't think a lot of players would have beat Rafa Nadal the way he was playing that quarterfinal. Nadal did not play a bad match at all, and Nadal doesn't think he played bad either. He said it after the match. He doesn't think he played a bad match. He didn't. But he was he made some uncharacteristic errors in the biggest moments, and I just can't help but think that there was a percentage of explosivity that Nadal was lacking because he's played too much tennis, and I don't think he's looked like himself at any point in this Australian Open, and I really think he needs to rest. I think it's been too much tennis. He didn't have an off season with Davis Cup and the ATP Cup. I think he should consider skipping Miami and Indian Wells. I'm getting off topic here. The point is, Nadal in that current state, and maybe it would have happened even if Nadal was at 100%, but Dominic Thiem is an athlete in his prime, is more powerful and faster than Nadal, and he stayed disciplined in his shot selection, regardless of how big the moment was, regardless of how much pressure he was under. Yeah, he got tight. He got nervous in big moments. Served for the match in the fourth set, played a terrible game to give Nadal the break back. But if you look at the match as a whole, Thiem stayed disciplined, trusted his fitness, trusted his consistency. And the only way he was going to lose this match was if he made too many errors or if he couldn't get a return in play. And he did just enough on return. But the big positive from Thiem is that he stayed disciplined and came up with some incredible plays, came up with some very clutch serving. The number one thing is he never reached a rough patch in the match where he was overhitting and spraying and making errors. Nadal played a great game, by the way, in the third set when Thiem was serving at 4-5, where Nadal really dug deep, played a great game to win that third set. So that wasn't even a rough patch for Thiem. Thiem couldn't have really done much. Great consistent effort from Thiem. All right, let's go on. Zverev versus Thiem. I think this is a difficult decision for me, and here's why. I think Thiem's the better player right now. I don't think Zverev is a great matchup. The head-to-head does not support what I just said because Thiem leads the head-to-head 6-2. But I look at the play styles here. I see how these two play, and I can't help but think that there's a lot of things that Zverev can do that should be able to bother Thiem. And a lot of those things are things he did things that Zverev took advantage of against Stan Wawrinka in his previous match. So the first thing is that Thiem, just like Wawrinka, does not like to play the ball on the rise. Oh, wait a second. I totally forgot to go over Zverev-Wawrinka in that quarterfinal. Real quick, I don't have that much to say on this. Two things that Zverev did really, really well that I want to point out. One, and I just foreshadowed it here by accident, Zverev likes to put lots of shape on the ball. Net clearance, heavy topspin. If you don't take the ball on the rise, it is going to push you back. Right? Because it's going to be a high bounce, regardless of the court. This isn't a high bouncing court. It was hot conditions, which makes it higher bouncing. But a lot of net clearance, heavy topspin, fair amount of depth. You combine those three things, and you have two options. Either move back or move up. Move up to take the ball on the rise, or move back to wait for the ball to drop into the strike zone. Stan Wawrinka's tendency will always be to move back. He is not an on-the-rise kind of player. He can do it. It's not never. It's that it's not his natural state. Zverev likes to be defensive in his court position as well. So what you had at least, is Wawrinka in a very defensive court position. Or I don't want to say defensive. Wawrinka far back, Zverev far back, and Wawrinka trying to hit through Zverev. There was way too much distance that the ball had to travel to make that happen. And Wawrinka overhit, sprayed tons of errors. Stan hasn't been a model of consistency, has he? The second thing for Zverev is that he's serving really big and at a very, very high percentage. And that's because he is hitting into high margins. It's protecting his second serve, which has been way better, but still, it's not great. It's not too heavy, even if he's not double faulting. It's not a very heavy second serve. He's making like 70-ish% of his first serves on a consistent basis because he's aiming for the middle of the box, and he's serving at 135. It's brilliant. He's saying, look, if I hit bombs and I'm making all my first serves, I'm still not going to get beat on return, even if I'm not getting aces, even if I'm not hitting it in the corners. If I bomb the ball, that's going to be difficult for my opponent. So I'm going to aim towards the middle of the box, and I'm going to bomb the ball. Great service strategy, and Zverev has been confident enough in the midcourt to rip his forehand when he's inside the baseline, which is good because it hasn't always been the case. So that brings me to the Thiem Zverev matchup. Again, it's hard for me because I think Thiem's the better player, but I think Zverev can take advantage of the same kind of things that he did against Wawrinka. One, I still don't think Thiem's returning great, and Zverev has a big enough serve to bother Thiem in that respect. No doubt. So I see Zverev getting a lot of help on his serve. I see him getting a lot of free points and a lot of short balls, especially to Dominic Thiem's backhand. I still don't think that shot is there. Then the other thing is that Zverev is so good at absorbing pace, and he can do to Thiem exactly what he did to Wawrinka by hitting high margin over the net, heavy topspin, good depth, hang back, and just try to be the more consistent player. Trust that he's the player with higher shot tolerance. Thiem is vulnerable to that strategy. Medvedev's hurt him that way. Nadal has beaten him that way. Djokovic hasn't been able to tame his offense as well. But Zverev has the kind of ball that can force Thiem back a lot better than Djokovic's ball, for example. Now, two things. One, I think Thiem can get to the net a lot more than Wawrinka did, which is a way to try to create offense off of Zverev when he's taking a defensive posture and hitting with a lot of loop. And I think that Thiem can play on the rise, which Wawrinka never really did. And I have so much trust in Thiem's coaching staff to do all the right things that I genuinely think that if Thiem doesn't play on the rise, he's going to lose this match. But I also genuinely think that he's going to play on the rise when Zverev tries to hit loopy. A key for Thiem is also going to be hitting with angle, not trying to hit through Zverev, and I think two opponents in a row, Rublev and Wawrinka, have both tried to smash the ball at Zverev. He loves that. Zverev wants you to hit it as hard as you possibly can, right? As long as he can get there, he loves the pace. And he's had two opponents in a row who have done that. Thiem, yeah, he hits big, but he creates some incredible angles. And that's how you can take advantage of Zverev's defensive court positioning. All in all, I think that this is going to go 5 sets. I think it's going to be on Dominic Thiem's racket. I think there's going to be a lot of retrieval on Zverev's part. But ultimately, Thiem is going to play on the rise enough and get to the net enough to penetrate Zverev's defense with enough regularity. He also needs to, in order to create some breaks, he also needs to get enough quality returns. He tends to be able to do that not with consistency, but in spurts. That's what he did against Nadal. There were some games where he got enough returns in play, and that's all he needs. I think Thiem edges this out. I have Dominic in 5 over Zverev. Hope you enjoy the match. I will be back with a preview of the final. Until then, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.